Okay, it's time to talk about our guide. We've got everything stripped down here like we showed you in the other videos, and we're ready to get started. We'll just run down the parts, so if you want to follow along, you'll know what parts you need. Obviously, first of all, you're going to have to pick a guide. Now, I'm going to go with the Universal EVO Big PCS guide, 8.3 millimeter depth. The depth of my track can handle it, so I'm going to go deep or go home. So that's what I'm going to use. You can choose any guide you want. Slotting Plus has several different types. Here's one just like that. The PCS means trimmable, personalized cutting system. You see the lines in the blade there you can cut. So this one's only 7 millimeter, so you just choose a guide that matches the depth of your track. Then next up, you're going to need the guide adapters from CG Slotcars. So I always buy the combo pack because you never know when you're going to need another one of these adapters for another project. So I get all three thicknesses. That way I know that I have the right one for mine and for maybe two other future projects. So this stuff here, these adapters that he's made, solid gold. Always keep some in your drawer. Anyway, you're going to need some wire. I like the SCC silicone braided wire. Very, very flexible. Very good connection. Easy to solder with. That's the wire I choose. And of course, going to need some braid. I just go with tin copper braid. My track is tin copper. I've just been using this. Just my personal choice. Plus, you're going to need some guide shims. It's something that we forget sometimes, but when you really want to micro adjust that guide, you're going to need good shims like this. And then finally, for my hookup method, for the wire to the guide there, I like using set screws. So make sure you have some M2 set screws on hand. So there we have it. That's basically your parts with a few images. Hope that was easy enough to follow along. Now we're going to get started getting our guide in. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to true the front tires. So I have been tire truer here, and I'm not going to turn them down too far. Like I said, just going to true them up. You don't have to do this if you don't want to, but if you're going to, do it now. This way you're going to set the correct height when you choose your adapter and your guide shims. You could put these on the rear, sand them like that, bring them back to the front, or just make sure they're fully seated. If you don't sand them, just make sure that they're fully on the wheel on each side, and then you can do it. So I'm going to true these up and get them back in the car. Alright, hopefully you can see I've just sanded that down basically, get rid of the tread pattern, and that's about as far as I go. Now I'll do the other side, get it back in the car. Okay, now that we have those secured, we can start testing what adapter we're going to need. I just get the guide, put some braid there, and I always start with the thickest one, the 3/32, and I get it in there, make sure it's flush, right where it's supposed to be, and test it. And in this case, the thicker one, the 3/32, is the one that we want. So now that we know that, we can get it installed. As far as the adapter fitting, it fits very well, but like I'll show you in the photos, you'll notice this lip right here, there in the Pioneer chassis for the guide there, the mount. And this plastic on the adapter is a full circle. Well, it doesn't quite fit perfectly. So you'll see here how I trimmed half of that away. I think you can see that. So that's about half, of course, of what that one is. So trim that in half, and then you can place this on here, and it lays down and fits exactly the way it's supposed to. So I just used an X-Acto blade and just trimmed off that excess. Started right here in the middle and just trimmed it away. Pretty easy to do. So that's the only mod you have to make to the adapter itself. And now we can get some adhesive on here and give it a test run. Alright, just a couple of corrections to what I've already shown you. First of all, you don't have to notch the guide sleeve, that part right there. just take the whole thing off. So just take this, set it on its side, and just smoothly, using your X-Acto blade, and just cut it all the way off. The gap between here and the top in the chassis isn't that much. I have several cars like that. Most of your adhesive is right here. Having that opening isn't going to hurt a thing, and it's a lot easier than trying to notch it. Second thing, as far as the thickness goes, I really think now, for most of you out there, you need to use the 1/16. So you need to use the thickness that's kind of in the middle there in your combo pack. The 3/32 did work for me, but it's really close, and I can just see on some tracks where it's not going to be the right choice. So what I would do for safety's sake, I would use a 1/16 thickness, and then make sure you have some guide spacers on hand to set your ride height with the guide. So that's all. Now we can move on. Okay, so as we've talked about before with the guide fitment on Pioneer is your bulkhead here. There could be the front of the bulkhead rubbing on the inside. You can see here I have clearance. There's no rubbing, and that's because I cleaned it with a hobby knife. So as we've shown before, it's just the easiest way. Fresh blade and scrape away some material here and all the way around, and then just keep test fitting your guide until you have clearance. So just another modification that you have to have. I mean, if you want to run right, that is. So now we've got a really good solid feel. Gonna get it all hooked up, and then we'll finally, I think we're gonna put some power to it before we change tires and see how it tracks. And here we are, all finished. Have it installed. Put the screw here, hold it in place. Have our fresh wires. Just ran the wires there. You can see I glued them here, keep them clear. But the guide fitment is wonderful. No free play, no slop. Very easy rotation. Works great. Final thing I want to show you. You'll notice here where I've trimmed it just a little bit. I trimmed the rear of the guide off a little bit. I left the front a little longer, and then I just curved it. And the final thing that I like to do is take a little bit of sandpaper and sand the edges of your guide here. They can be a little sharp, and those of you with copper tape on your tracks, sometimes these sharp edges on these guides, when you deslot, can actually harm your tape. So I've always had the habit, since I had tape before, of sanding that. So go ahead and smooth that down. Won't hurt a thing. But there you go. It's all finished. Now we've got a really good guide in there, plenty of depth, no free play, and that's it. Just a little bit of work goes a long way, though, in how these cars handle and getting rid of that sloppy guide and putting something in here worthwhile. And like I said, then we've routed our wires back here, keeping the stock motor. And now we're going to talk about truing up some wheels and tires, and then we'll move on to some light tuning. But that's the guide portion. I hope that helped you guys out, and as always, look forward to your comments online.